The Supermax at Goulburn might sound like the prison of no return, a place for criminals and terrorists with no hope of release.
Australia's greatest Supermax jail for males, the Goulburn Correctional Centre, is located only 3 kilometres from the town centre of Goulburn. This fortress houses both state and federal high-risk inmates under constant supervision, with its history visibly etched into its walls. Designed by renowned colonial architect James Barnett in 1884, it is not merely a site of punishment, but also a significant piece of Australian heritage. Its reputation is built on daring escape attempts and the ultra-secure, high-risk management unit called Harm You by inmates, making it as notorious as it is historic. Today, we explore the daily routines, work programs, isolation, and the lives of those who endure behind these walls. Stay tuned and remember to subscribe to the channel. Goulburn's first lockup popped up around 1830, and just 2 years later, in 1832, gallows were already towering over the town. Back then, punishments were brutal, floggings were common, and crime didn't go unanswered. By 1847, the first official Goulburn jail was established next to the courthouse. Fast forward to 1878, and the jail could hold 190 prisoners, 63 in separate cells, 127 sharing space, but only 66 were locked up at the time, including one woman. Change was coming. In 1879, plans were drawn for a bold, modern prison, part of a colony-wide push to upgrade jails. Overseen by James Barnett's office and supervised by William Coles, Sydney builder Frederick Lem got to work. Between 1881 and 1884, he constructed a massive new complex for £61,000. On July 1st, 1884, the doors opened. Goulburn wasn't just a jail anymore, it was a public prison, a house of correction, and a place to hold men awaiting sentences or transportation. The new prison could now house 182 in separate cells and 546 in shared spaces. By the end of that first year, 295 prisoners were calling Goulburn home. The opening wasn't just about punishment, it was part of a local boom, creating jobs and pumping life into the town. The 1890s saw even bigger changes. Prisoners themselves helped build 127 more cells, 6 exercise yards for young offenders, and another yard for those awaiting trial. This allowed Goulburn to implement restricted association, a method spreading across NSW to separate low-risk prisoners from hardened criminals. New cells for women were added, and younger offenders were moved into the old women's cells, keeping them apart from serious troublemakers. Steam cooking facilities, workshops, and a towering 70-foot chimney transformed the prison into one of the most advanced complexes in the state. The prison didn't stop evolving. By the turn of the century, agricultural areas were thriving. A bakery opened in 1916, and a new cell block in 1961 housed prisoners working the farms. The 1960s also brought a modern education block and auditorium, showing that Goulburn wasn't just about punishment, it was about reform. For nearly 80 years, up to the 1970s, Goulburn earned a reputation for shaping first-time and young offenders. Prisoners learned trades, worked on farms, and studied in classrooms, all while building ties with the local community. Over the decades, the name changed. Goulburn Reformatory in 1928, Goulburn Training Centre in 1949, and finally Goulburn Correctional Centre in 1992, but its mission remained clear: discipline, reform, and work. The late 1980s brought Goulburn into the modern era. Walls were extended, industrial and sports areas were added, and a high-security segregation unit went up. Even then, the prison kept its focus on first-time offenders, offering education and work programs under restricted association, a strategy that kept reoffending surprisingly low. Goulburn wasn't just a prison, it was a living, evolving institution, shaping the lives of hundreds while standing as a stark, imposing presence in the heart of the town. Prisons aren't just big buildings with cells, they're carefully organised worlds split into different sections, each designed for a specific purpose. These units separate inmates based on security risks, behaviour, or special needs, keeping both prisoners and staff as safe as possible. Take New South Wales' Long Bay Correctional Centre. It's not just one prison, it's several prisons under one roof. The Metropolitan Special Program Centre mixes maximum and minimum security prisoners, creating a delicate balance of control and freedom. Long Bay Hospital is a maximum security wing. But it's not just about bars. It's for inmates who need serious medical or psychiatric care, combining safety with healthcare. Then there's the Special Purpose Centre, the fortress within the fortress, designed for prisoners who are at serious risk from others and need extra protection. Over in Victoria, Barwon Maximum Security Prison has its own system. The mainstream area is where most inmates live. Think of it as the normal day-to-day part of prison life. But break the rules or make an enemy, and you could find yourself in a management unit, a stricter environment designed to keep order. For those who would be unsafe in the general population, like witnesses or high-risk offenders, there's the protection unit, a secure space that keeps them out of harm's way. And just like Long Bay, some sections are devoted to medical or psychiatric care, because even inside prison, health and safety remain a priority. The High Risk Management Correctional Centre is a special part of a prison built to hold the most dangerous or high-risk inmates, people who could pose a serious threat to other prisoners, staff, or even themselves. Sometimes called a high security or maximum security unit, it's designed for strict supervision and control. Goulburn's HRMCC opened in 2001 at 20 million Australian dollars, originally called the HRMU. Inmates often nickname it HARMU. It was Australia's first Supermax prison since the closure of the Kattingal unit at Long Bay in 1978. It's the most secure prison in New South Wales. Life inside is highly regimented, with constant surveillance and strict daily routines. Prisoners often complain about long stretches of isolation, limited exercise, lack of fresh air and natural light, and restricted access to legal books. Reports of harsh treatment and self-harm have also emerged. In 2008, the NSW Ombudsman said the unit does not provide a therapeutic environment for these inmates. Even with all the security measures, serious incidents still happen. For example, in June 2011, an inmate allegedly smuggled in a mobile phone and plotted 2 kidnappings and a shooting. He and his co-conspirators were charged. At Goulburn, your body is scanned constantly. Strip searches are routine. And cells are invaded by commandos with dogs. The dogs' paws are dirty, their saliva drips, and they trawl over beds like it's nothing. Food is treated like contraband. Coffee, sugar, rice, salt, pepper, and cereal packets are emptied and checked. Margarine and jam jars are poked, sometimes emptied. Hygiene doesn't matter. Food poisoning is a real risk. Several times a day comes the muster up. Inmates must stand at their cell doors to prove they haven't escaped. Guards check throughout the night, jangling keys and rattling doors. On freezing nights, if you're under a blanket, a torch is shone through the trapdoor until they confirm you're in bed. In 2015, Goulburn Correctional Centre grabbed headlines for some of the boldest prison incidents in recent memory. A prisoner escaped from the maximum security wing in a plan that could have come straight from a Hollywood thriller. He sliced through the gate in his tiny exercise yard, tied sheets together to scale the wall, and even wrapped a pillow around his waist to protect himself from the razor-sharp wire above. That same year, trouble struck again when another inmate smuggled in a mobile phone and uploaded content online, exposing serious gaps in security and prompting the prison to take urgent action. By late 2016, Goulburn began testing mobile phone jamming technology. Following a successful trial at Lithgow Correctional Centre, this system blocked contraband phones, stopping inmates from making calls or sharing content beyond the prison walls. After proving its effectiveness, authorities secured a 5-year permit in November 2021 to continue using the technology, bringing a high-tech edge to the prison's fight against escapes and illegal communication. Life in prison revolves around a strict routine designed to keep order and structure. Most days start early, often with a jog or some exercise for those who want to stay fit. After morning physical activity, breakfast is served and then inmates move on to work assignments, education programs, or other structured activities based on their placement. Some may participate in creative programs such as music, art, or other hobbies that keep them engaged and help them develop new skills. Prison is not just about serving time. It's also about work, skill building, and surprisingly, profit. In New South Wales during 2020 to 2021, the prison system reported over $50 million in profit from $138 million in revenue, serving roughly 13,000 inmates. Much of this comes from Corrective Services Industries, CSI, which runs over 170 projects across NSW prisons. These range from construction and engineering projects to laundry, agriculture, technology services, and Aboriginal art initiatives. Some prisons even contribute to community projects, such as building affordable housing in rural Aboriginal communities. Inmates' jobs vary widely. Many women in NSW prisons, for example, care for children in residential units or work on tasks like untangling and repackaging Qantas headsets. Maintenance and food service jobs are also common. Across Australia, most women's prisons offer mum and child residential programs, giving mothers a chance to stay connected with their children while serving their sentence. In Victoria, the daily routine is similar. Inmates might start with exercise before moving to prison industries. Job opportunities vary from basic maintenance to skilled trades like welding, gardening, painting, or driving tractors and lawnmowers. Some participate in prison farms, gaining experience in dairy farming, horticulture, and animal care, skills that can help them after release. During emergencies like bushfires or floods, inmates sometimes assist communities with extra manpower. Other opportunities include forklift operation, hospitality training through TAFE courses, and kitchen work. Almost all prisoners under the age of 65 are expected to work during their sentence. Exceptions include those on remand, sick inmates, or those in education or rehabilitation programs. Even remandees are often encouraged to contribute if possible. In Victoria, refusing to work can mean staying locked in a cell for the duration of the workday. The highest paid inmates are usually those in skilled trades, peer educator roles, or prison hairdressing. Though pay remains far below that of staff, still these roles provide a sense of purpose, practical skills, and sometimes a pathway toward employment after release. Now, let's take a look at the daily routine of one particular prisoner, known to many as the jailhouse lawyer, a nickname he never liked. He wasn't a lawyer in the formal sense. For 13 years, he had quietly helped inmates with all kinds of administrative tasks, from writing letters for inmates who struggled with reading or writing to filling out forms for employment in prison industries and even requesting reductions in security status. He did it all. He also helped proofread assignments for inmates completing tertiary education online. Many inmates came to him hoping to appeal their convictions or sentence lengths. Often they or their families couldn't afford private lawyers. The older inmate had worked in the UK civil service as a young man in the legal division of the Post Office Savings Bank's death claims branch in Glasgow and London. He could read and understand legal language and would research what was needed so inmates could file in court as self-represented litigants. Over 95% of his work was pro bono. Only a handful of inmates who could afford it paid him a fee. First, he'd explore legal aid if it was refused, usually because the case was deemed lacking merit. Some inmates accepted it as the end of the road. Others still wanted to try, even if the odds were nearly impossible. He supported them anyway, knowing that months would pass during the process and that at least part of their sentence would elapse while waiting. A little jail time psychology. He himself had his appeals to the Supreme Court and High Court dismissed. But for the months it took to hear the appeals, he lived in hope that he might succeed. The jailhouse lawyer, a label he disliked, especially since he had many friends who were real solicitors and barristers, helped hundreds of inmates across Victorian correctional facilities. His work included writing letters, filling out forms, and, for a small number, helping prepare court appeals. His legal friends often assisted him pro bono, checking his work and clarifying complex points. Megan Ellerton from the Registry Office of the Supreme Court of Victoria and Rosemary Mussolino from the Melbourne Division of the High Court of Australia advised him on compliance with court rules and procedures. When he left prison, he still had several ongoing cases. After explaining his background to the judges, he was allowed to attend the Supreme Court as a Mackenzie friend, helping articulate the arguments for the inmates he assisted. He was even allowed to sit at the bar table by Her Honour, Justice Hollingworth, with the approval of opposing counsel, who were also briefed on his history and helped him navigate court protocol. Some inmates eventually received legal aid and were happy to have qualified lawyers representing them, significantly improving their chances of a successful outcome. Goulburn Correctional Centre isn't just another prison. It's a place with deep historical and architectural significance. Its original radial layout, built around the chapel, isn't just practical. It creates a strong sense of space and order that has stood the test of time. The prison and the town of Goulburn have grown together socially and economically over more than a century. It's also tied to some famous and infamous figures. From Victoria Cross winners to bushrangers, larrikins, labour leaders and murderers, the prison's history is full of notable stories. And its physical fabric tells this story. Over 110 years of continuous use are etched into the buildings, walls and documents that make up the site. Goulburn Correctional Centre was officially listed on the New South Wales State Heritage Register on April 2, 1999. It met several important criteria. Historical significance. The prison demonstrates the course of New South Wales cultural history. Its long record includes connections to prominent and notorious individuals, both staff and inmates. Aesthetic and technical significance. Architecturally, the prison is impressive. The radial plan centred on the chapel creates clear spatial relationships, and the masonry is both inventive and durable. The chapel and radial wings have unusually fine and sturdy roof structures. The harmonious textures and colours of the original brick, stone, render, slate and ironwork make the prison a striking example of 19th century design. Perched above the junction of the Wallandilly and Mulwaree Ponds, the site also offers lovely views to the north and east. Social significance. The prison and the town are closely linked. Goulburn has become the major judicial and penal hub of the Southern Highlands, and the prison has played an important role in the local community. Research potential. With 110 years of continuous penal use, the prison holds immense value for understanding the history of corrections in New South Wales. Its buildings and records provide insight into the evolution of penal practices over more than a century. Rarity. Goulburn is one of only 2 Maclean-inspired jails in New South Wales that fully reflect 19th century advances in prison design. The other, Bathurst Correctional Complex, has lost its chapel and been heavily remodelled, making Goulburn an unusually complete example of its kind. That's the story of Goulburn Correctional Centre, Australia's Supermax, where history, high security tension and the lives of inmates and staff come together. If this inside look at Goulburn was compelling, subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on future deep dives into the world's most notorious prisons. Which part of life inside Goulburn shocked or surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.